Hi, I am Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the NVLD Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NVLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NVLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the NVLD project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoy today's episodes.
Work that is generated throughout that workshop, and how the process works is that actors are paired with a writer and paired with a director, and then they all brainstorm what they want to do, and then the writer goes away and writes and uses what they've learned from the actors and directors, and they are brand new plays and cover every topic imaginable. And so I find it very refreshing to be involved with a theater company that is so forward focused and forward thinking in promoting disability talent across every production they do, both virtually and on their main stage productions.
Yeah, I would say that's also interesting too. I guess I didn't realize that there was plays that were promoting disability empowerment, but I'm glad that there are.
Me too.
I was wondering if you could let me know how your family and friends and people that you work with support your podcast and or video cast, and like how your team helps produce it.
Oh, how long do you have? Because I brag uh, about my team so much. I am so very blessed to work with the people I work with on this video cast. I often give so much more credit to my team and to the guests I interview who volunteer their time and energy and allow me to help bring their stories to a broader audience. Then I give myself credit for. And that's not to say I don't take any credit. It's just that I'm more focused on shining a light on others than I am on shining the light on myself. Uh, I I'm very well aware that my that this video cast would not be in existence if I tried to do it alone. Now, there are a lot of podcasters and a lot of videocasters who do it alone. And I think that's wonderful. I have the utmost respect for people who are able to put out content by themselves. I have never tried to do that. Likewise, I have never tried to do a episode just by myself where I'm not interviewing another person or several other people. I could try that. I could try that. I just don't really want to try that. The And there's nothing wrong with that. The video cast was always envisioned as a interview medium, interview vehicle. And likewise, it was always envisioned as a constant collaboration between several different people, most of whom you don't get to see, but who do everything from post production of the audio and visual elements to social media posting on my personal accounts to promote the video cats as well as our professional accounts to people who manage the website and put out the newsletter every week. I am indebted to them in many more ways than one. And so I always feel incredibly blessed to work with who I work with. And they are never far from my thoughts in everything I do professionally. They're just amazing people, and I could not ask for a better team of people who I work alongside and consider colleagues as much as employees or independent contractors. I just feel incredibly lucky to be able to walk alongside some of the best people in the business that I know. And so as I've said the fifth or sixth time in this answer, uh, I'm just extremely lucky and grateful, and that feeling never goes away.
Yeah, I can tell how appreciative you are of your team, and I can see where that would be helpful to have people who help with the, like you said, the newsletter and the tech piece of the social media and website part. Um, I was also wanting to ask you, are there any like gifts or talents that you think you have because of your learning disabilities, or I guess, like, from myself, I'll give an example. I'm really good at memorizing song lyrics, and I'm good at memorizing numbers and people's names, and um, like their birthdays, and I guess I have a good memory for things like that. I don't know if you have examples like that.
Not off the top of my head, I don't really think about that. Uh, in terms of my learning disabilities, I can memorize things a lot better than I could several years ago. I would have to think about that more. There's no real ready made answer
Hmm.
that I can tell you about.
That's okay. Um, do you is there something that you try to share with people when you talk about your podcast and your learning disabilities, in terms of like what you want, what message you want to get out to the world about it?
So I don't really talk about my learning disabilities. They really never come up in conversation. I don't try to hide them. I'm
Hmm.
not ashamed of them. They just don't come up in everyday conversation. In terms of the video cats, I am always trying to advocate that it's it's a constant collaboration between me between me and my cats, between me and my team, between whoever else gets involved in the future, uh, and that it is a video cat that focuses and surrounds disability empowerment and disability advocacy, and that it seeks to promote the diversity of the disability community and what people with disabilities can and do in their daily lives and what they want to do.
Hmm.
And it, I consider myself a step or two down between from being a figurehead of the video cats. I'm constantly planning several seasons in advance. I have it's very much my legacy and the people I work with. Part of their legacy, I would hope. But I am constantly looking towards the future to where it very much outlives me
Mm-hmm.
because it is that important. Now, does this come up in everyday conversation? No, of course not. Uh, but I very much do see this medium existing, this program, this public service existing beyond my involvement with it. And I hope to be able to just be the first of many, many hopes that uh, take it to the next level and think outside the box of what it is capable of giving the world around us. But in terms of promoting it, getting back to your question, it's a interview, video, and podcast that focuses around disability empowerment and advocacy and illuminating and hopefully driving the conversation forward about the incredible diversity that disability really is. People with disabilities want to live the lives they live. They have the same needs and desires that their non disability counterparts do.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just the video cats is about illuminating and moving that conversation forward. That disability is far more and always has been far more than just a medical condition.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And you're right, it is more than just a medical condition. It's I believe it's who makes us unique and who we are. Um, and I was wondering if you could speak to like if there are any times when you feel like you wish you like didn't have your learning disabilities or that you were neurotypical, so to speak.
Very, very young uh, is the last time I really, really wish I didn't have them, or that I wish there was some way for me to cure them.
Mm.
Uh, I, I think a lot of people go through that process early on, uh, even now, uh, of trying to figure themselves out, dealing with internalized ableism, internalized imposter syndrome, uh, fighting against the supercrip notion. Uh, I've certainly struggled with all of those. Uh, Several times throughout my life. Where I am now in that journey is I do not mind having any of my disabilities. Cerebral palsy isn't going away.
Mm-hmm.
You you get diagnosed with cerebral palsy either at birth or by age 3, or you don't have it. You can't get it later in life. You can't pass it down throughout
Mm-hmm.
generations. You can't get it by being intimate with someone who has cerebral palsy. So, what does trouble me, frustrate me, anger me, bemuse me, flabbergast me, and every other word of just how it's that's still a thing is the social ramifications, uh, the social misconceptions around disability. Uh, I would very much rather people come up and ask me why I talk the way I do
Mm.
than just assume I'm drunk, I'm on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
There's something not right up here. I'm not intelligent, all the like. Uh, because I'm a disability advocate. That's my job. If I cannot talk about my disability, or if I get offended by those questions, I shouldn't do the job that I do. People are afraid to ask. I I don't consider my speech impediment to be a impediment. I consider it a accent,
Mm.
just like every other accent you will hear throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, cerebral palsy is a neurodevelopmental disability, but that only the primary focus of cerebral palsy is motor development. It controls or it affects how I move. That's all. Sure, you can have other disabilities, and some of them can be intellectual in nature. But the fact that you have cerebral palsy does not guarantee that you will have other disabilities. I considered cerebral palsy to be a universe in and of itself because it is incredibly diverse to every person who has it. And I'm I'm no longer flabbergasted by my disabilities, and I haven't been in quite a while. That doesn't mean that I don't feel their daily effects. But what flabbergasts me is the amount of misinformation, the amount of assumptions or judgments that the temporarily abled bodied or tabs, non disabled counterparts will make
Mm-hmm.
regarding people with disabilities. I don't use a walker, I don't use a cane, I don't use crutches. That doesn't mean that I'm not disabled. That doesn't mean I'm luckier than people who use who use devices
Mm-hmm.
to walk. It, it just goes to show you how incredibly diverse a disability can be in terms of how it affects a person. I wish that people would not be afraid and approach me and approach others as fellow humans and not curiosities. Or should I say that? Should I not say that? Uh, Authenticity is key. And I would really like to deal with being judged less by people who do.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I like how you were saying about the diversity of disabilities because that's very true that they are very diverse. I mean, if you look at people with autism, some are very verbal and some aren't. And um, some can drive, some can't. And with NLD, which is nonverbal learning disability, what I have, it that's also very diverse. Some people who have NLD can't drive as well, and some can. And then some are very good at math, and others aren't. So, like you said, there's a very diverse range of capabilities or um, degrees that those challenges affect you, I would say. Um, and I was wondering how like how you yourself or maybe also how people that you interview have tried to say that basically like as encouragement for others who are neurodivergent and get discouraged when they are trying to stand up for themselves and be like um, more advocating because sometimes that's tricky for people to do.
At the end of every interview I do, and the interviews, and I wish I had said this earlier, the interviews always start as interviews, but quickly evolve into just two or more colleagues having a discussion like we are
Right.
having. Uh, but to end every episode, I ask two questions, and one of them is the question you just asked me. What are some action steps that you would um, give aspiring uh, advocates, be them actors, uh, public servants, writers, the like?
Hmm.
And then I also ask at the end, we've talked a lot about a lot of top we've talked about a lot of topics in this episode. What do you hope that people with disabilities take away? And what do you hope that people who have yet to discover or embrace their own disabilities take uh, away? And I really leave it up to my guests to answer those questions because that's the only structure that the interviews have. In terms of how I would answer that question, authentic, being authentic is key. People crave that now more than ever before.
Hmm.
And however that is for you, be your authentic self. That's, and it's not always easy, and don't expect it to be always easy,
Right.
but I'm not usually asked the questions I ask back to myself. So I I'm struggling to really answer that question because every guest that I have answered those questions in a different way. Uh, Not always, I should say, but there's a incredible variety and incredible diversity in how one can answer those questions. But to me, being authentic is number one,
Yeah, I agree
top
with
of the list.
I agree with you on that. Being authentic is important. I've done many episodes about that on my podcast, and that is important because it shows others who you are, and it also, I think, in terms of not masking or hiding the disabilities that you have is important too, because um, then it shows people another piece of you, and I think it's easier for you to advocate for yourself when you show who you are too. Um, and what I was also curious was if there uh, basically in terms of when you look back at your accomplishments, which one do you think you are most proud of for yourself?
This video cats. Before this, it was co-writing a book about an HIV orphanage in Kenya
Mm,
with my parents. And that book raised a lot of money for the orphanage. Breathing's very nice. Being able to talk, I should have mentioned that before. My voice did not come in until the age of 7. And after countless hours of speech therapy. And so my voice is very, very precious to me. I'm very proud of it. I'm very protective of it. And it's something that I have written about in the past that a metaphor or a analogy that I use is that a peripheral in a computer, usually it's just the plug and play
mhm.
action of you plug something in and the computer immediately recognizes it and installs whatever driver it needs to function. Sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes a uh, pop up message on screen says driver cannot be installed correctly. Please contact your system administrator. That's a very dated reference. I don't believe that actual message comes up anymore. Uh, leads the please contact your system administrator part of it. But that is the the analogy I use that on a daily basis it's constantly being emitted throughout my body, from my brain to my vocal cords. And that is how my voice works. I constantly have to train it. Uh, I and so I'm very proud of being able to use it in the ways I'm able to use it. Believe it or not, I have social anxiety.
Mm.
You would never know it from the job I do, that is my main occupation. But that doesn't change the fact that I do have social anxiety. But when I'm doing interviews or when I'm conducting interviews, I'm in the zone. I've done long interviews with excruciating migraines. You would have no idea though, because when I'm doing interviews, everything else falls away. My focus is very singular on my guest, on my guests. And so I've given you several things that I'm extraordinarily proud of, but it all comes back to being able to talk and to be able to engineer the voice that I have. And it gets, because I've put so much work into it, I get incredibly frustrated when people don't understand it or take it for granted. That because it wasn't just given to me, not at all. It's a gift. It's something I'm constantly honing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're probably gonna have to cut down some of these answers. But it's like it all comes back to being incredibly grateful for the beautiful tool that I have been given and that I use on a daily basis to promote empowerment and advocacy for people with disabilities.
Yeah, I can see that, and I appreciate the answer that you gave for that question. The only other last question I have is if there's anything else you want to mention to my audience before we end the interview.
So, in case you want to contact me or find out more about my podcast, Disability Empowerment Now, you can go to www.disabilityempowermentnow.com. You can also find the podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify. We are very active with our Instagram, which is at Disability Empowerment Now. We also have a LinkedIn. We
Mm-hmm.
also have a Facebook. And if you want to be a guest on my podcast, you may reach me at KRock, which is KROCK 6400 at gmail.com. All the official podcast email, which is Disability Empowerment Now at gmail.com.
Thank you for that information, Keith. And thank you for letting me interview you. I had a lot of fun doing so.
Thank you so much for inviting me on. Thank you for coming on my podcast, and I hope that we can collaborate again in the future.
Me too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hopefully, what you can do with these episodes on this podcast, Living with Invisible Learning Challenge, I would like to challenge you to journal about the episodes and just see what you learn from them. Or you can share about the episodes with your friends and family and see what they can learn from them. And as always, I will post the links to the articles that I use in the description of the podcast. And please let me know if you know somebody who you think would want to be interviewed on this podcast, or if you yourself would want to be interviewed. Please email me. I have my email on my website, and I also have it pretty much pretty accessible on Facebook and Instagram through messaging as well. So you can get in contact with me in those ways.